institutions spread across the country doesn't have a national policy on public libraries. And even though libraries are a state subject, a national policy would certainly play a vital role in presenting core ideas which can transform libraries by states, adapting the policy as per their state context. So our penultimate session seeks support in the transformation of public libraries as the rules and regulations embodied under the national and state policies often act as a hindrance in the transformation process. And to understand policymakers' perspectives and discuss the initiatives needed to transform these institutions to realize Vision New India 2022, we have Madhavan Narayanan, senior journalist, writer and poet, moderating the panel. Madhavan has more than 25 years of experience in journalism in Indian and international news organizations. He's currently working with Hindustan Times, as well as spent 12 years in Reuters, the international news agency, where he covered a range of issues from the Kargil War and general elections to being the chief technology correspondent and Bangalore bureau head. As I explained earlier, our panel comprises Ms. Meenakshi Lekhi, Member of Parliament from New Delhi constituency, and Mr. Arif Mohammed Khan, former Cabinet Minister. So it's over to you, Madhavan.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session. We've had 2 days of various aspects of the library movement covered already, so I was tempted to hold forth on many aspects, but 2 reasons I would not do too much on that front. One is that a lot of it has probably been covered in the sessions preceding today and yesterday. The other is that I have a couple of very eminent people who are most important, well-read people who are committed to the business of books. But there is a huge paradox that we have to cover something strange, which is the lack of adequate public library facilities in India, while being an ancient civilization rich in knowledge. We call ourselves the land of great epics like Mahabharata and Ramayana, but I think in Mahabharata we had the story of Ekalavya, who had his thumb cut off because he tried to gain knowledge. So I call it the curse of Ekalavya that is visiting India today, that so many people do not yet have access to easy sources of knowledge. I think the Knowledge Commission under the UPA government thought about making India a knowledge society, and there were many efforts or pronouncements to that effect. But I think as a culture, as a country, we haven't yet snapped out of the roti, kapda or makan mode. We have to probably move towards this swast or gyan apart from roti or kapda or makan. I think Devang Mehta, who was the founder of NASSCOM, one of the early founders of NASSCOM, used to call it roti, kapda, bijli or makan or bijli or bandwidth. And I think we can add maybe swast and gyan to that. We have the Prime Minister who's already made a big state slogan, Padho India, Badho India. But we need to give it shape and put our laws and money where the mouth is. And I have personally been a big beneficiary of the public library movement in India because I was born in the right place at the right time. I was born in the heart of Ms. Lekhi's constituency, New Delhi, which I've been blessed. As a child, just half a kilometer away, I used to first get hold of the Delhi Public Library, which had a mobile version. So I accessed the mobile version, but because I was so hungry for books, apart from the school library and the mobile library, I had another library here at Delhi Public Library at Lakshmibai Nagar. Then I got into the British Council Library, and then the American Center Library, then the College Library, and then I was told, if you are a government servant or somebody related to UAS, then you can even access the Central Secretariat Library. So I was greedy for books, but I was blessed with books, and whatever I am today is because of books from public libraries. So in that sense, it's with a sense of gratitude that I begin this session. But we are also living in a, apart from the curse of Lake Ekalavya, I'm also reminded of Lata Mangeshkar's ghazal, singing Nazir Bakri's ghazal, you know. खड़ा हूँ आज भी रोटी के 4 हर्फ लिए सवाल ये है किताबों ने क्या क्या दिया मुझको. I don't know, it has given me a lot. So therefore, I must say that with gratitude. But we have to probably dig deeper and find that, everybody is not as blessed as I am. So I am going to call upon Mr. Arif Mohammad Khan, with whom I have a personal interesting association. I first saw him on July 13, in a more close interaction on July 13, 1990, when he had just resigned from the Union Cabinet under Prime Minister VP Singh. And I went to his house at 10 p.m. because he had just resigned, along with a bunch of reporters. And my eyes were not looking so much at him as his bookshelves. He's famous for reading. He's famous for buying books. And his study was well-stocked, the way some people have well-stocked bars these days. So, and from then I knew that he was a great book lover. And then the last meeting I had, or last time I saw him, was 2 months ago, again at the Nehru Memorial Library, speaking on the nuances of triple talaq. So books and he are never far away, but I'm going to throw a googly at him because he comes from UP, which I understand is famous for a drought of books. So I shall set the ball rolling by asking Arif Saab, please explain this paradox. Tell us about your own memories of libraries and also about the state of libraries as you see in India today.
Thank you very much. Essentially, libraries and books, they are instruments which create access to knowledge. Even today, many times we hear this word about India, Vishwaguru. But if we look at Mr. Narayan has also referred to Eklavya. You referred to Eklavya? Eklavya you referred to. For a long time I was also under the impression that under some royal or religious sanction, we denied access to education to a large number of people in our country. Till I read what Swami Vivekanand ji and particularly Swami Ranganathanand, the former head of the Ramakrishna Mission, who passed away only about 7-8 years back, till I read his writings and his speeches. In fact, this is the story of the period of decline in India, when this knowledge was denied. And Swami Rangnath ji particularly has referred to Srimad Bhagavad, not Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad, where he says that a person who denies or goes to the extent of saying who is not ready to share his knowledge with others has been described as Saraswati Khalv, the villains of Saraswati. Because India has this great tradition where it has been said that there is nothing more valuable than knowledge. Ano bhadra kirtavo yantu vishvate. Let the noble thoughts come to us from everywhere. If we are ready to receive these noble thoughts, which is wisdom, from any and every source, how can we deny the same thing to our own people? But unfortunately, as Swami Ranganathan has said, during the period of decline, these things happened. And when I read this, then I am reminded of what Plato has written. Plato has written that the alleged inventor of writing, Theus, or he is known by another name also, Hermes, when he invented the art of writing, he was very enthusiastic. People who saw it, they were enthusiastic. And the ruler at that time in Egypt was the Pharaoh. His name was Theus. So they presented this new invention to the ruler of the times. And the Pharaoh was not particularly pleased. He said, my skillful Theus, memory is a great gift which ought to be kept alive through continuous training. With your invention, people will not be obliged any longer to continue to train their memories. And they will remember things not because of an internal effort, but merely by virtue of an external device. And in this context, Plato has used, further while discussing further that subject, he has used this famous phrase, "Sesi Tiura Sela." The book, I find this very loaded phrase. The book will kill the cathedral and the alphabet will kill the image. Something which is greatly revered today, and something which is greatly revered today, it creates vested interest also. The vested interest does not want any new invention so that this status quo is disturbed. He said, book will kill the cathedral. This is not part of the conversation between Theut and Thames, the inventor of writing, and the Pharaoh, who was presented with this new tool. In that essay, at the later stage, this phrase, Latin phrase has been used. Sesi Tiura Sela. So, because I come from UP, I have represented, I have been a member of the assembly, I have been member of parliament a number of times from Uttar Pradesh. Honestly, I even felt hesitated to come here. I feel ashamed. Because in Uttar Pradesh, there are only 75 public libraries, as compared to 14,000 in Maharashtra, almost same number in Karnataka, very high percentage-wise, very high number in Kerala and other states.
For 200 million people, only 75 libraries.
Yes, only 75 libraries, so I really feel ashamed. And that's why this phrase came to my mind. Sesi Tiura Sela. And it explains many mysteries, this phrase. I remember a home minister in my presence he said this sentence. I remember that in 19 I think I should not give the year, otherwise you will figure out who was the Home Minister. So I should not give the time. But I had come back I had gone to attend some conference or some meeting in UK. I came back that morning. And then I was also in the government. So I had the lunch that day with the Home Minister at his residence. And then by the way, I mentioned, sir, I was there for 4 or 5 days. When are we going to change the training of our police personnel? Because here we can see almost on a daily basis the manner in which policeman behaves, particularly with rickshawala, with ordinary people. I said there, if you are curious, you try to understand things. So I said, even if somebody has violated the rules, the policeman cannot abuse him. He cannot use his stick to beat him. He will inform him, you have violated the law, but call him sir. And if this person argues back and says, no, I have not, then first he has said that I impose, suppose he has the power to impose a fine up to 50 pounds, then first he said, I'm imposing a fine of 15 pounds. If he argues, then he says, now sir, you will have to pay 20 pounds. Now sir, you will have to pay 30 pounds. I said, this is the police which they had trained for their own country. In India also the police was trained by the Britishers. Why the attitudes are so different? The attitudes are different because here this instrument was created to terrorize people into submission. The natives. It was an instrument to control the colony. And that is an instrument which is to look after their own people. Sir, don't you think there is need to change this whole orientation, the training of the police? Then he tells me back, काके अगर इसे बदल दिया तो तुझे और मुझे कौन पूछेगा?
So we know who the Home Minister is.
Not very difficult.
So, but I still, I have never forgotten that. And then you can recall so many instances where it has been said that if you want good road, if we will build a good road, then it will become, the police will come here on a regular basis and they will start arresting you for the crimes which some of you are committing. You can recall all these things. Unfortunately, what I feel really concerned about is that there is some vested interest associated with keeping people ignorant. This vested interest has come into existence. Otherwise, how can we explain this country, historically speaking? Today we are only wishing, we are only hoping that India becomes knowledge destination. But India has been a knowledge destination for long period of time in the history. Long period of time. The Arab historians in the 8th century, the Arab history writing started in 8th century. You read the first historian, Tabari, what he says, the first one. And others have followed him. In fact, I had done a longish piece for a journal about 3-4 years back, 4-5 years back. India as viewed by early Arab historians. If there is one thing common in these various historians writing history, the world history, they were not writing Arab history, they were writing the world history. And that one common feature is there are only 4 empires. By empire there they mean civilizations in the world. The Chinese civilization is known for its crafts. The Iranian civilization is known for the Roman civilization known for its handsomeness, its smartness, etc. The Indian civilization it is known for preservation of knowledge. Each one of them has written this. In fact, there is a saying of the Holy Prophet. Many of you must have heard it. It has been translated by Allama Iqbal in one of his poems on India. Meere Arab ko aayi thandi hawa jahan se. The Meere Arab means the leader of the Arabs felt this cool breeze coming from my land, that is India. Mera watan wahi hai, mera watan. That is my country, that is my country. But what are the exact words of the prophetic narration? The exact words are, Ajidu rihal ilmi min biladil Hind. I am feeling the cool breeze of knowledge coming from the land of India. So even in the prophetic tradition, India was identified with knowledge. So we have a special responsibility. The special responsibility is that we will, if we succeed in making India a knowledge hub, we will not be doing anything new. We will be only reviving our old legacy. And that's a duty, a national duty on each one of us. And to make India a knowledge destination, the role of books cannot be, it cannot be underestimated. How can you make a country knowledge destination without providing this access to knowledge to the common man? With 75 libraries in Uttar Pradesh, India cannot hope to become knowledge destination. We have to change this situation. Somebody said, just now they informed me that constraint on resources. Constraint on resources is fine. Somebody says education is expensive. The other person said, try ignorance and then you will know which is more expensive. We need to find resources. This is a duty which we owe to our coming generations, to our young generations. And I am sure through your conferences, through your mobilization, your movement, this awareness will be created and we will move in that direction where books become available to our ordinary people. And they don't have to spend much money on that, but through these movements, books become available to them. And public libraries, not only books are there. Today, in today's world, they have become hub of so many social, health, educational activities. The people come there. Wherever the public library movement is successful, you read this. The youngsters come, they sit there. They look for jobs which are available. They send their applications from there. This place is also used for social interaction. So we should try. I think it's a duty that whatever we can do, in whatever way we can contribute, the public library movement should become stronger in India. Thank you very much.
Wow. All I can say is that maybe you should have called Arif Khan Saab for a keynote session yesterday. I think this was a fantastic keynote which should set the mood anytime. I have to perform the unpleasant task of bringing you all down to earth after that. But just before that, please remember his mother tongue may be Urdu, but he was quoting from Sanskrit, Persian, Latin, and Arabic.
Thank you very much.
I noticed all that. As an Urdu-loving Tamilian, I'm happy to accept that. But let me bring you down to earth. As of now, India does not have a national policy on public libraries. And out of 29 states and 7 union territories, only 20 have some legislation to support that. And they are outdated. I have a suspicion I'm not even sure how they tie up with Digital India. I'm afraid that is something for the organizers of this conference to mull over. But we need to think deeper. And I just learned that there was a national mission on libraries under Dr. Manmohan Singh set up with a princely allocation of 1,000 crore rupees. That is about, that's a billion rupees. It's a lot of money. But, sorry, that would be more than a billion, I think. Yeah, that'll be 10 billion rupees. but it has now come down to 400 crore, and some of it is being subsumed in a more virtual library kind of thing. So at a time when every allocation is being increased, it is sad for a country which was, or a civilization described by Arif Saab as the mother of knowledge to the planet, looking at this way. So who better than a sitting Lok Sabha member to confront on this issue? So you'll have to tell us how a well-read person like you sitting in parliament has to suffer this ignominy of a great civilization fallen on difficult mood. Now I have this joke for somebody from the New Delhi constituency. You know, we had this, when I was growing up, there was this road named after Lord Reading called Reading Road. That was named after the old British viceroy, I think. But now its name has been changed to Mandir Marg. तो लगता है reading को छोड़ के मंदिर पे आ गए हम बहुत. So it's time for Ms. Lekhi to tell us about what she thinks. I'm sure she's well read, so she's going to tell us about the paucity rather than anything else.
No, paucity always has a context. And a viceroy named Reading did not make it reading, or a person with reading habits. But Mandir definitely connoted a place, and the connotation was a place which provided libraries, which was a social hub. And that's where all the Bharatnatyam and Kathakali and all dances got evolved. And that is what shows that the libraries used to be part of your temples, and temples were a great place of learning. But as the civilizations changed, as the times changed, we gave up on all the good things we had. And like everybody else, the 3 years of me being part of the new regime cannot change 70 years of legacy. So we do have legacy issues. And in those 3 years, I've tried to make about 25 libraries in my area. Wow. So I think individual aspirations, individual thoughts matter. And how motivated your public representatives are, how motivated your public is. Like you, I've also grown from the same culture. Delhi Public Library was one of our favorite hubs. We've all been there. We've all read books. We've all taken books away from those places and participated in yearly competitions. I still remember the debates we participated in. We collected the books. And libraries were places of not just social interaction, but huge amount of learning spaces. And when I became a mother, my constant worry was that I got married into a family which was very hooked on to books. And like most people, most mothers will always worry that kids will get hooked onto computers and stop reading and will not get used to the books. So that's the fear I was confronting. And I remember making them members of 2 public libraries when they were just little kids, class 1 and class 2. And one was British Council, and the other was Shankar's Library. And the idea behind that was that when children are growing up, the reading habits need to be inculcated at that age. And once they are hooked on to books, they don't get hooked on to anything else. And I just supervised that till class 5, and today I can always say that I'm a very proud mother. The boys are hooked onto books, and books in any form, e-form or other forms. And now even when they are on computers, I'm not worrying what are they doing, because I know they are reading something. So the fear at that stage, normally in any mother or any woman's mind, is that probably computers will take away the place of books. And because we grew up with the hardcover books, which we were supposed to finish from cover to cover, this cut, paste, copy habit will kill the creativity and will kill the initiative of reading and learning and formulating the deeper knowledge. But I think those are fears, and if you inculcate the right habit at the right stage, you get over those fears very, very quickly. And today, all of us, most of us, are reading on our laptops and reading on our iPads. Of course, hard copy, hard book is always available, but I think in terms of movement, I was remembering the Kerala model, where one person called Mr. Panika has done a fantastic job of making public libraries. I am not sure about the number you have given. It is appalling and it shocks me because a large state like Uttar Pradesh, which has been ruled for whoever has done it, 1 year is too short a time to make more than 75 libraries, but your message will be communicated to the right people, and I can assure you, you will see a movement in UP, definitely. And whatever help we can seek from people, we will do that. And 75 libraries, does it include the public library in the form of universities, etc.? Or it's just the city libraries you're counting and calculating?
I think it's only city libraries. Somebody in the audience will barely.
So another aspect is, a lot of people who have access to school libraries, a lot of people who have access to university libraries, because most of us have used university, school, college libraries as well. Let's incorporate that also, because anyone who is on the task of learning will be accessing those libraries as well. Maybe they need to be updated, maybe the infrastructure needs to be improved, maybe we need to work at that, but we can't discount the existence of those libraries when we are giving the figures. So we have to involve that and do the right figure calculation and improvise various libraries in schools and colleges and also the universities, because we've all had access to those kinds of libraries also throughout our learning process. And nevertheless, the public library, in the sense where elderly, where women, where the village folk, where the township can start going to the library, is one thing we need to develop, and we shall develop that. The movement needs to catch up, and I think early childhood is a big impetus which can be given, especially when you talk about UP and talk about Khan Sahib. I think his mother tongue is Hindi and not Urdu. Yes. and he's... They are not two. Yes, that's Hindustani. That's Hindustani. That's Hindustani. Absolutely.
That is the difference of the script. In fact, Maulana Azad, in his famous book Tazkira, has written, "My father used to speak the same language which you are speaking, but I never heard the word Urdu from him. He always referred to this language as Hindvi, because that was the name." These are not two, Again, I would like to tell you something very interesting. Somebody, to welcome some foreign guests, and this person, who was in an important position, did not know English. So what he did, he wrote 10 sentences of English in Urdu script. Now that does not become a new language. And he spoke perfectly. He committed those 10 sentences to the memory, and he delivered them in a perfect style. And nobody would even get a hint that this man does not know English. But if I write English sentences in Hindi script, will it become a new language? No, languages are determined by the grammar. If you look at the European languages, most of them have the same script, but grammar is different. They are different. Urdu and Hindi have the same grammar and they have different script.
That's very interesting. Urdu ki Farsi samjha di aapne aaj.
Madhavan ji, I wanted to add another thing. The access to knowledge, as was being discussed. I think access to knowledge in this country, I normally give an example, what we are blessed with, we as Indians, and I'm very proud of that, is our brains. I think we have the knowledge that we can compete with the world's best in any field we choose to. And that is there because civilizationally, we have been a knowledge society. Poorest of the poor, no matter which part of the world that person may go to, spends money on educating their children, even if they have been denied that. And that has come with the years of slavery that is ingrained in us. And that years of slavery which we have spent as a civilization has brought us where we are. As a knowledge-based society, Valmiki wrote Ramayana. How do we say that access to knowledge was denied? And Vidur to everyone else. So the kind of distortions which have happened civilizationally need to be corrected. So we as civilization have been people who have always respected knowledge. And let's go back to those roots, carry forward the march we've all undertaken. Those of us who are blessed with knowledge, those of us who are blessed with finances, those of us who are blessed with wisdom, need to put our efforts together and give it to those who have been less privileged. And only then we can change the way our present is. Does not mean or take away the pride in us which our past gives us. Our past gives us a sense of pride so that we can move to the future by correcting our present. And that's the task the public library can do very well. And that's why I support this movement, to carry forward the banner of our past into the future and giving away the fear, which as I said earlier, the fear of not getting hooked on to computers, because we always feared, especially when kids were around, that they will get hooked on to computers and they will stop learning. Answer is no. That's the new methodology. Allow them to learn through computers, allow them to learn through laptops and whatever else they choose to, as long as they are there to gain knowledge. And internet, for me, is the new God, because it is more equalizer than anybody else.
Yeah, in fact, I was just looking at a stall of this company, Bosco, I think, EBSCO, and I was just joking, they are the Uber of books. You can share electronic books using library format, so library is no longer necessarily about pages, but we need to have an infrastructure for that. Because even today, even on Amazon Kindle, the books are expensive, even if you can download it. So we need to make them more accessible. This is where I want to hold you to something more specific, since you're a sitting member of the Parliament. I'm tempted to ask you, would you like to raise this in Parliament? See, there are two aspects. Both resources and legislation needs to back this movement. And I'm keen to know whether you plan to do that. You've done 25 libraries yourself. Presumably that's from the MP area fund, no?
No, I'll tell you. MP area fund will always have a difficulty that I cannot spend on anything other than the infrastructure, a new infrastructure. Most of the places we couldn't go that way, because to construct a room, etc., I can spend the money on. But to get the books and all, which are not there we know that books are there forever, but something which can be taken away, etc., the MP LAD cannot be spent. But a friend of mine is present here, and I will not shy away from taking her name. That's Jayashree Goyal. She's a friend, and we ended up conversing with each other. She heads a foundation. I have used her CSR funds to propagate the libraries.
Wow.
So
that's smart thinking. Yeah.
Mm. You see, I think more than some people have to decide on doing something. There will always be good people to support the cause. And so far as legislation, etc. is concerned, I will be happy to assist in any manner whatsoever. And in fact, I would like to get the copy and access to the legal recourse which other countries have or do not have. Because for me, you don't need a law to set up a library. That should be part of all the municipal governance. And every area you develop, you need to provide a reading room, and you need to give access, especially if there is a basti and all. I've come to know that in Delhi, people pay something close to 3,500 to access a reading room. And which is so strange, because all of us spent hours in libraries beyond college time and all that, so that we could finish our work and study and go back home just free, do nothing at home. And I think that the whole setup needs to change, and somebody needs to put the thinking in the right place. So I will be happy to offer my assistance to the extent if there is a law which is in existence, I'll pick that up. If there are gaps, which I learned that there were gaps which were in the terms of subordinate legislation, not a law, but in terms of, say, if this place has a library, in how many years the revamping needs to happen? What needs to be done with the discarded books? Because if there are yearbooks, you don't have to stack up the yearbook of 1920 unless it goes into archives. It may be a material for archive, but it may not be a material in
living institutions.
Absolutely.
While there's a huge beauty in this, that you have to preserve the archives while making them. So you have to have one foot in the past and 1 foot in the future. I have an interesting question for Arif Saab on that front, because you mentioned how libraries are not just a place where people come to read. The young people come to discuss things and even look for jobs. So, do you have any ideas on how, public libraries can be elevated to make them more vibrant, like more knowledge institutions, किताब और इल्म में फ़र्क तो होता है.
Certainly. But all over particularly if you look at the public libraries in the West, then with this internet, computers, they have become hub of so many activities which again can be undertaken only by those who have the knowledge and who know the technology and who can have this access through internet. How they are applying for jobs? Because they come there, they go to the computers. Now in libraries there are large sections which have the computers. So they use it. Through computers it has become possible. And then people who come regularly to these libraries, they in that sense, the libraries become place of appointment where they meet each other and take some new activities also.
That's pretty interesting, but taking off from there, it's an idea which I have, but I wanted to throw it at Ms. Lekhi for a peculiar reason, which is that I was doing some research. I may be a little off the mark, but I find that there's a huge plan to set up common seva centers across the country under the Digital India and mission. When I was doing some research, and I found that it has everything there in the thing. There is e-governance related knowledge coming there, so this is from a governance perspective. But my point is that every CSC can be actually converted into a public library. From what I could see, all the plans so far have been only focused on public services in a hub for public services, not as a hub for a broadening of the mind. It's something that could be considered, in my opinion, because it's scalable, as they say in IT. It's a very scalable idea, because if each common seva center becomes a library center, and then it is supported with a backbone that is in which, let us say, the Ministry of HRD and the Ministry of IT can work together, it's a kind of a thing. We have to think big now, don't you think so?
No, we have to think big, and I had another idea, which was, I was visiting this Archaeological Survey of India, and I told them that you need to digitize every sheet in your possession, and you need to have a coffee vending machine, because coffee and books is something which all academicians across the world get hooked onto. And why do we keep coffee and tea vending places away from the libraries? As much as toilets are needed, coffee machines simultaneously are needed next to the library, and only then people can spend long hours wherever they are. So make them happy, happening places. And I always feel that loneliness and solitude are two different things. And you do need solitude when you're reading. So converting the digital centers into library, I would shudder from going to, because I need my peace of mind to be away from all the crass impacts of places, and I just need that. So I would rather go to a quieter place, maybe under a tree by myself, because when you are with the book, you just want to be with the book and not with the noise idea around. So the happiest times are when you are by yourself with the book in the solitude. You are thinking and rethinking, and you need that space. And if that space is not available, libraries become marketplaces, which I don't wish to. I want libraries to remain libraries, maybe the back of a temple, back of a mosque, back of a church, or a school which is over, and then the library is kept open, a panchayat ghar, or, places away from the marketplace is what I would suggest for library, and not a market-oriented place to be made into a library.
It's a very noble thought, but it obviously would. It's a brilliant thought, but it would obviously mean a commitment of resources of a higher order, and I would love to see it happening. But
Resources, I'm very sure, resources are, there's no paucity of resources in this country. And I'm going to make one statement, which is, of course, not related to libraries, but I always say we were a poor nation who funded the British industrialization. And we were a poor nation which funded even Swiss banks. We are a poor nation, we are funding Singapore economy and Chinese economy also. So I think this process needs to be altered. This thought needs to be changed to utilize the right resources for the right place.
To quote Sarojini Naidu once famously said, it takes the richest of the Congress party to keep Mahatma Gandhi poor. So it's a bit like that. But, it's something very interesting. Thanks for mentioning that, because if libraries are to be centers of solitude and learning and resources are not a problem, I have an excellent example to follow from Tamil Nadu. It's a nice coincidence. Day before I was in Chennai and was coming to the airport, and the taxi driver, an Uber driver, says, "Sir, this is Anna Library." So I suddenly remembered, wow, I'm going to be moderating this session on libraries, and I've heard about this library. So I did some research, and I found some fantastic statistics which tells you where the rest of India can learn from Tamil Nadu. The Anna Centenary Library, it got into politics, we'll come to that later, but it has been set up at a cost of 172 crore rupees. And it has 1.2 million books, including a Braille section. Somebody was saying today about the lack of Braille opportunities in Braille bookshop. It has a Braille section. It can park 420 cars. It's a LEED certified building. There are 50,000 square foot of books and 15,000 square foot for children alone. But while books are books, it is all high tech. It has a smart card based automatic check-in, RFID tagged books, radio frequency tagged books. And Hillary Clinton visited that place in 2011. And when the library was set up, the consulates of various foreign embassies voluntarily came forward to donate books because an infrastructure had been set up. It has a huge auditorium where discussions can take place. It has 8 acres of land and 9 floors. So I found this fascinating because here I was going to discuss the drought of public library, and suddenly a taxi driver shows to me something which has an amazing range. So does anyone know here of any other state which has done anything like this? Goa? That's interesting. Goa. So Parikar Saab se baat kar lijiye. So I think every state should have one, and preferably, as they used to say, agar 16 ana Gandhi nahi to 4 ana Gandhi ho sakte hain. So if you can have every, instead of a state capital, if every district has this kind of even 10% of this, it can. So it's not as if it has not been done, but I think we need to be inspired. I think. What do you think, Arif Saab? Is there any, I've been told, for instance, that can something like changing these libraries from state to concurrent list can help? Is this a center state issue like GST?
More than concurrent list, honestly. What really matters is the awareness. Demand comes as a result of awareness. First, let me be aware what role I ask myself, even Meenakshi ji or anybody who is in public life, what role are we playing to create the awareness among the masses? Upanishad has a beautiful line. There's one beautiful line from the Upanishad. It says, I think, therefore I am. If I do not think, there are people who are not aware of their fundamental rights. even if enormities happen, they do not protest because they are not aware. I think people like those who are sitting in this auditorium, we have a duty, not just those who are in public life. We have a duty to create this awareness. Absolutely essential. And why only at the level of the district headquarters? If we plan it properly, we need library more in areas where there no books are available. I came to Delhi because my village did not have even a school, primary school. So I came here when I was 5 years old to Jamia Millia. But when I was in class 8, became very seriously ill, and my grandmother, who even otherwise at the initial stage itself was very upset why I was sent to the hostel, she called me back. So my childhood days, those 2 years, 9th and 10th, I was in my village. And I appeared for the high school examination from the nearby town, which is only at a distance of 3-4 kilometers. During these 2 years, I got क्या कहते हैं उसको rubber seal, मोहर कहते थे ना, मोहर, rubber seal, made of, the name of my village is Barwala. So we said Barwala Public Library. The only property of the library was seal. And a small rack. And what I did, I started writing letters to various embassies. See, we have this library. Please, if you can send us some books. And you will be surprised to know that every month someone, this embassy or that embassy, they will keep sending us books. Fascinating. As I said, the only property of the library was that seal and one small rack.
So if you as they say, find the goal and the means shall be available.
Yes.
It's very, very interesting. But that actually brings me back to Ms. Lekhi, because he's talking about embassies and I was talking about consulates donating books to the Chennai Library. But in her own small but not so small way, she's used CSR money to build libraries. But now we have a CSR law that legislates that 2% of net profit should be spent on corporate social responsibility. I think maybe the library movement should aggressively tap this. Is there any way you can show the way, having been there and done that?
The way is very simple. You see, paucity of resources, there can be temporary crunch. But as Arif Saab said, that if we set the goal, everybody comes forward to help. So I think in 3 years' time, one conversation led to another, to the third, and there was CSR funds lying, and they wanted to use it for the right cause. So right cause, I offered them that I don't touch money in any format. The only thing, I will give you the space, and you set it up for me. So I will help you administratively. So I'll summon the chairperson of NDMC, I'll summon the commissioner of SDMC, I'll speak to the councillor, I'll speak to people, and I'll say, give me one room, I will give you a library. So a lot of people came forward, but I did it for a Gurukul, and that was the promise which I made before my elections. Mm-hmm. So there is one Gurukul in my constituency, and I went there before my elections. They said, बहन जी एक काम करना होगा, ऐसे बताइए, मतलब कुछ होगी हाथ में ताकत तो जरूर करूंगी, आपको अपना MP लैड से लाइब्रेरी बनवा के देना है. So I immediately committed. I say, हाँ ठीक है, ये हो जाएगा. Now the worst thing was that when I actually read the MP lad guidelines and I became an MP, I came to know I can't spend my money in the sense MP lad money on setting up a library, because this is not a permanent format. So MP lad can't be spent. Now I was in a I don't like to make false promises. So I was very, very conscious about this fact that I made a promise. I have to get it done. Which pocket is going to be used? I need to search for that pocket. Now, there comes a friend who says, look, we have some funds. We would like to spend it at the right cause for the right place. I said, oh, plenty. Plenty of causes in my constituency. Please help me with. They said, what are your favorite places? So I said, one is library, second is toilet. So wherever you can spend, please spend. And I will not seek anything. I will only show you the location. You build it, you do it, you manage it. And after that, train people to manage it. And I'm very scared about children going to places which are unguarded. I'm very, very hyper person in that sense. So setting up an independent unit without a guard was something which we cannot afford. Something goes wrong, it will be under your jurisdiction, so would not do that. So in all MCD schools, as somebody pointed out, that knowledge goes to places which do not have access to. So municipal corporation, poorest of the poor, send their kids because education is free, uniform is free, shoes are free, books are free. So obviously those who do not have and who cannot afford send their kids. So I felt municipal schools were the best places which have teachers for infrastructure and management but do not have libraries. So I started with municipal schools, and the moment you have developed your reading habit till primary class, then nobody can stop you from reading.
It's a voluntary hunger.
It's a voluntary hunger, and you'll find places and access to all kinds of libraries. So Gurukul gave me an idea to start. So the first library we came up with was in that Gurukul, and it was one of the fantastic libraries, the Vedic library with all the modern novels, etc. as well, English and other languages, Sanskrit also. Then the senior citizens wanted an entertainment place, and they wanted a library. So 2-3 senior citizen centers have been converted into libraries.
Oh, wow.
So the point I'm trying to make is that with library, whenever you're setting up, you need to look into not just the pocket of the person who's going to spend the money, but after it's been built, who's going to run it and manage it, which is very, very important, because access to library is one aspect, but management is the other. Only if people can take care of it should you hand it over. Otherwise, it'll be a waste of resource. And that's why I look for places where management is not questioned. So NDMC set up about 14 libraries in their pre, middle, and senior school. Delhi Cant has undertaken, with Delhi Cant, the Jayashree group, which is Angelique Foundation, they are setting up about 10. And municipal schools we are setting up in
Very
every
interesting.
ward.
I'm very keen to know from the IPLM whether there's a training module for people. You know, we need to have some kind of a, maybe under the Startup India or social enterprise scheme, we need to find people who will be, you know, certified library managers or something like that. Like the tax return preparers, they not be major library science people, but they should be able to quickly, in a short span of time, acquire sufficient knowledge and experience to run or maintain.
Somebody has to pay the salaries, and
That's
that becomes a challenge. So I think schools is one model where you don't have to pay. And municipal areas, for example, NDMC has some huge spaces lying vacant. So we decided to convert them into reading rooms.
Very interesting. The common lesson from both these people today is that they both started out with ideas, found something of a shell, and then the whole thing happened. So message of the year is shell companies are not a good idea, shell libraries are a very good idea. You know, you can start with a shell library, and if you, as they say, if you build it, they will come, or the books will come too. That leaves me with one aspect, Arif sir. What do you think of the state of philanthropy, where charity, you know, there are so many charitable organizations. You have any thoughts on that, on how you can engage them?
Sure. I think we have a very significant number of people who are interested, who are very No, I'm not talking in terms of the Fortune 500. I'm talking of those who have very modest means, but they are very interested in philanthropic activities. They're passionate about it. Because never forget that we in this country, the next birth is going to be determined what good we do in this birth. They are motivated by that sentiment. And if they are motivated by that sentiment, then, I will quote to understand this better. I will quote 2 lines from, if I remember correctly, it is from an Upanishad. Na aksharam mantrahinam, na moolam naushidham. Ayogye purusham nasti, yojak istatra durlabha. There is not a single syllable, single alphabet, which does not have the power of mantra. We call it akshar. Akshar is something which cannot be destroyed. And words are made by the combination of these 2 indestructible syllables, 2 or more. So, na aksharam mantrahinam, there is not a single syllable which does not have the power of mantra. And there is not a single root, vegetation, which does not have the quality of medicine. And there is not a single human being who is devoid of talent and qualities. What is needed is the yojak. One organizer, one who can identify these talents and qualities and put them to proper use. This is what the institutions are all about. This should not happen in a random way. The institutions, our national institutions, I would say even governments, but governments, more than that, the institutions, because it is institutions who ensure the continuity of an effort, of an endeavor. So people are there. We need to identify them. We need to channelize their passion and their energies into, and we need to emphasize, as I said earlier, the awareness. How important is the access to knowledge? In fact, you want to help somebody, you can help him by providing a meal or 2 meals. Or you can help him by providing a skill so that that person can earn his own meals.
That's right. As they say, if you teach a man to fish, he shall eat for a lifetime. I have a technical question, Ms. Lekhi, that, you have things like the private members bill in Parliament. Do you think these kind of instruments are useful in influencing policy so that, all said and done, government inspires in some way? And there's a huge hiatus, if I may say so, between the Prime Minister's own speeches and what happens in Parliament and in government. And people like you can bridge that difference. So, is there any thought you have on this?
No, definitely. And many things which I proceeded with, the later they have been implemented by other people and things have happened. National policy on librarians, library science, a part of budget to go to HRD, etc., all that can be arranged. That's why I'm very keen to learn. I have not really put my thoughts on it, but I'm very keen to learn how legislation has happened in other countries, what kind of legislation, if at all, exists in our country, and if this movement and the people present in the hall can help me access the past records and things, one can definitely think of a long-term strategy on this, which I've already promised that I will work on. Now you've given me an idea, I will definitely take it forward. And whatever little is in my capacity, I've been trying to help that. And let the new session come, we will take it forward.
Wow, we're actually getting things concretely done here. I'm very happy because usually these things tend to be talking shops, but we've had some wonderful philosophy. But it's a very interesting thought that knowledge is power and libraries are the easiest sources of knowledge. We have just about a couple of minutes. Is there any one audience question for any of the panelists? There, sir? Yeah. Lots of people. You don't have the mic.
Uttar Pradesh has already, Act is there, but it is not implemented.
Okay.
One thing. And secondly is, under Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, there is a lot of money pumped into the schools. But they are not spending for the libraries. They spend for the libraries. Because every public funding can be used by everybody. Then that school library also can be also helpful to use as a public library. Can you work up with that?
Sir, I already made that promise. And I said the message will go to the right people who can work it out and who can carry it forward. I have already taken a note of that. Because whatever has happened, as I said, it's a legacy issue. We've inherited certain things from 70 years. 3 years is not long enough to slay the demon. But we are on our task and we shall do it.
I think, yeah, even private universities, some of whom seem to have a hell of a lot of funds these days, should be coerced into allocating a part of the resources for public libraries. Yes? I'll repeat the question. Please go ahead. Yeah.
It is a question related to policy, legislation, and citizens' right to information. That question was put to me by a farmer who was my neighbor in a remote village in the south. He is a good researcher. He has not passed the school, but he is a better researcher than me. And when he searched for some information, he found that it was unique and National Library only is only category. He is 80 years old. He considered me as a library professional, always talking about IT and when resources can be using digital technology, resources can be made accessible anywhere, etc. So he came to me and asked, I am paying from my pocket tax on sustaining National Library, and that library is holding this unique knowledge resource. Will it be possible for me to access that resource through my village library? I cannot go to Delhi at this age. And the National Library is functioning only as a public library of Calcutta.
Yeah, I think it is not only feasible. The only thing is we have to get a bit more specific. The point is well taken. I think the important point to remember is whether this can be part of an IT backbone where key documents of central libraries can be digitized and easily accessed across so that every corner of India will have access.
Not only technology, is there any legislation protecting his right to access National Library from his village library? That is my question.
You see, Stara, I think we should handle that if we can, if while sitting in Delhi, I can access the American libraries, I can access even other world's leading universities' libraries, why the National Library should not be accessible from a remote village in Kerala?
No, but I will share something which is National Library at Calcutta. Right? No. I have something to share. Now, Archaeological Survey of India people and what is the other one? The other Indian Archives? National Archives. Now, somebody from National Archives visited that library. That library is not in the right shape as we would want it to be. And thus, access is controlled or decontrolled by the technologies we use. And until and unless you digitize the entire record, which is not just a time-consuming process, but also very intense in terms of technology. Now, until and unless that is achieved, and it's put on somebody else's servers. You don't even have your own servers. You are giving access to your knowledge, which is your inheritance, to other people free of cost, and yet making it inaccessible for your own people.
Yeah, there's some.
And this great divide of digitization and non-digitized framework of this country is creating another Brahmanical class. That's another aspect of the entire process. So we need to bridge many gaps at many places. And in terms of policies and all, policies have to be very, not in a state of solidification of policy. It has to be a malleable policy which can take the shape and place as the time and space demands.
Exactly.
To meet the requirement of that circumstance which we are dealing with.
I think what we have done from a legislative perspective, what we did with real estate and highways, there was a model concession agreement as a business correspondent I knew when highways policy was being formulated. Similarly, for real estate also, a certain central initiative was taken and then the states have a certain flexibility. Maybe that kind of module can be created with IPLM. And I think companies like Google are very proactive in supporting this kind of an initiative, and we could do, get them to fund it if necessary.
No, but this is not the forum, but there are problems and difficulties. Which side goes up, which side goes down is determined by some third factor. If we say equitable access, it has to be equitable in all processes. Unfortunately, the social media, and I'm a worshipper of internet, and yet I feel there are too many flaws, too many controls, and too much of manipulation which is happening. And I can give you the forensic steps if somebody sits with me.
Oh, interesting.
I have a question.
I'm afraid we are really running short of time.
I have a question, sir. Small question to...
One last question, please. Thanks.
I'm very impressed, madam, when you said that I got my children registered at the age of 1 and 2. Then you spoke about the establishment of 23 libraries in your constituency. But you never said anything what you thought about the rest of the country. Number one. Number two, what you thought about the rest of the country.
Well, she's leading by example.
Then you talk about the UP. Please listen one more thing. I suggest, can't you take up the role of a role model for propagating the cause of the public libraries as knowledge spaces in the parliament?
She's already appointed.
I've already committed. I've already committed myself to taking up the cause and doing little more than that. Which I am absolutely honored that you place that kind of trust in me that I can change people's mind. We shall do it.
She's a persuasive lawyer, I can assure you.
सर एक रिक्वेस्ट करनी थी. मैं सर वाराणसी से हूँ, KS परिहार. मैं वहाँ पुस्तकालय अध्यक्ष हूँ वाराणसी में. सर जो स्मार्ट सिटी है, जो कॉन्सेप्ट चल रहा है और जो सांसद जी गोद ले रहे हैं अपना गांव, एक गांव गोद ले रहे हैं, क्या वहाँ भी मॉडल लाइब्रेरी कॉन्सेप्ट होगा क्या?
जी वहाँ पर भी किया है, हमने तो किया है. नहीं देखिए, मैं वही कह रही हूँ, इस विषय पर जो मेरा कहना है, मैं खास तौर पे यूपी के बारे में थोड़ा दर्द ज्यादा होता है और उसका कारण है कि जहाँ पर निराला से लेकर तमाम किस्म के राइटर्स पैदा किए जिस धरती ने, वहाँ पर लाइब्रेरी या अक्षर ज्ञान या ये सब चीज़ों का सूखा होना बड़ी अच्छी बात नहीं है. उस पर काम किया जाना चाहिए. और आपके जो मुख्यमंत्री हैं खास तौर पे, वो खुद भी बहुत पढ़े लिखे इंसान हैं, मैथमेटिक्स या किसी चीज़ में वो मास्टर्स हैं और इस पढ़ाई लिखाई की बैकग्राउंड से आते हैं. तो आपका संदेश सही व्यक्ति तक पहुंचा दिया जाएगा कि इसे मूवमेंट के रूप में लिया जाए, इसकी मैं आपको गारंटी दे रही हूँ.
ठीक मैडम, थैंक यू मैडम, थैंक यू.
See, what we have in our midst is a brand ambassador for the library movement in India. Anyway, thank you, Arif Saab. I think that we are really short of time, and frankly, I did not expect such a top.
She was referring to National Archives of India and Archaeological Survey of India. I was heading that Archaeological Survey of India library as director. Madam, in the year 2007-2009, around 20,000 books of 15th, 16th and 17th century books were digitized by the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts. It was so horrible, you cannot open, you cannot access that. So we are talking high sounding words of technology, but we are failed.
Okay, we will keep that
Sir,
in mind.
I'm telling you.
I have started, if you heard me right, I said it's not just time, it's technology, it's time consuming, it's intensive in every format, microfilming to everything else, and resource, which is an ongoing resource, because maintaining all that also requires a certain skill.
Exactly.
And those skills upgradation of the people, and I have visited that place, and it's beautiful. Like I can probably spend years there.
Yes.
Every day I can access a new book and a new document, and would love to do that. But the point is, these things need to be made available, as the gentleman said. Somebody sitting in Kerala, in some village, wants to have access to a particular document from say some parchment paper which existed and a Sanskrit literature of 3rd century BC or something. That, how do we make that accessible?
Yes.
Now, when you're giving example of American Library and the Senate Library and other libraries, you have to pay to get access to. They are not free. Even there you have a tax. So, because there is a cost factor. There's a cost factor to machination, there's a cost factor to digitization, there's a cost factor to people who are there. So we need to take all that into account. And in India, most of us, I mean, at least I don't know how many forms I sign a day, where people want access to libraries free of cost.
No, I think it should be affordable.
And I am someone who would promote that. I'll say the access to library, because funding and money should not be a constraint in changing the status quo. The status quo can only be changed because you had IITs, which were giving education to people with low income or low income backgrounds. You had Delhi University, which was giving you subsidized education. That's how all of us studied.
Exactly.
And I think access to libraries, some minimal requirement, yes, but the funding has to happen from some other resource.
I think we've got into a tremendous amount of interesting detail on this, but we're really short of time. Thank you, Arif sir, for providing some excellent philosophical ground. And like I'm saying, here's the philosopher, here is the guide on how to get this thing forwarded. It's been very intellectually enriching to listen to it, everybody today. And most important, the audience. You know, I never expected a topic like this to have such a committed and passionate and fairly houseful audience in the afternoon. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. Madhavan, just stay there, please. If I could request the CEO of NASSCOM Foundation, Mr. Shrikant Sinha, to please come up and present small tokens of gratitude to all three. And we begin with Ms. Meenakshi Lekhi. To Arif Mohammed Khan Sahab.
Thank you very much, sir.
And for our steward, Madhavan Narayanan. Thank you very much to all three. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We're now just quickly making the changes on the days for the next session, which is our concluding session. So please bear with us as we quickly make the changes here and then invite our guests up.